The Honourable Finance Minister circumvents around the very clear grounds provided in this motion. It says, and I read, unconstitutional withdrawals from the Consolidated Fund in blatant contravention of Article 178 of the 1992 Constitution, supposedly for the construction of the President's Cathedral, unquote. That is the ground. So I want to find out from the Honourable Minister where this matter of contingency fund and contingency vote is coming from, because we don't see that in the verbatim report.
We certainly did receive parliamentary approval for whatever we do with our contingency vote. And that is what I went through to do that.
Can you please help us with evidence of that approval?
Of the approval of the budget?
How did you get the approval you referred to?
And the other government obligations.
I have looked at the...
And I believe I have the liberty at that point.
Even if you come under, it is really shocking that such a major project will be treated as a contingency. It's shocking.
The minister has already explained that there was an appropriation, and then the payments were made out of the contingency vote as part of the appropriation for other government business
obligations.
I don't see how that is unconstitutional. And if the honorable member has a contrary procedure, which in his view is the lawful procedure, then he must show us.
I have served the country with integrity and honesty. Under my leadership as the Minister of Finance, there have been significant improvements in the accurate reporting of public finances. I have not been reckless in the management of the fiscal operations of government. Rather, our strenuous efforts to protect the public purse is what has helped this government to have achieved much more than any government ever over a similar period in virtually all sectors, including education, health, social welfare, policing, security in general, roads, railways, agriculture, industrialization, tourism, digitization, and funding for anti-corruption institutions. Honorable co-chairs, I've come to Parliament House 10 times, 11 times since this government in the last 6 years to present the annual and mid-year budgets. On all occasions, I have discussed all proposed fiscal operations of government, revenue, expenditure, and financing. On all these occasions, I receive approval as Parliament subsequently passed appropriation bills for all those budgets.
That's right. I have to go to former Deputy Minister of Information and currently Chief Executive for the National Youth Authority. And how are you? You look at that reaction. It seems there was a lot of anticipation. He seemed to have acquitted himself creditably, according to what we're getting from government communicators.
Well, thank you very much, Roland. Good morning to you, my brother Suhini, and the cherished viewers of TV3, especially the good people of my constituency, the Sujaman constituency. Of course, Bernard, I mean, we all have been witnesses to the build-up to the sittings of the ad hoc committee. Various comments were made. The proponents of the censure motion, for instance, had their day at the parliament before the ad hoc. Many comments were made, and I felt that many of them were unsubstantiated, and I thought that this was politics as usual for our colleagues on the NDC side. They wanted to take advantage of the unfortunate global developments that are imposing hardships on countries across the globe, and not only here in Ghana. Everywhere else, people are feeling the pinch as a fallout from the truly and really unprecedented global pandemic, the COVID-19, and also the fallouts of the geopolitics, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and its disruption to the value chain, and for that matter, its economic impact on people. What our colleagues in the NDC just wanted to do, you may call it smart politicking, was to take advantage of this global development and to criminalize the actions of the finance minister and to create an impression that there was mismanagement and all the negativities that was associated with the motion that was tabled before Parliament. And I am grateful to God that in the wisdom of the Speaker, the finance minister was offered an opportunity to face his accusers, and the whole world witnessed many of the allegations that were made collapse in the face of the facts as had been established. The issue of unconstitutional withdrawals, for instance, collapsed, and now members of Parliament, including my very, very good and respected brother and friend, the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, shift from legalities into sentimentalities. I am shocked. I am surprised. But you didn't go to the Speaker. You didn't go before the Speaker to issue your surprise or your shock. You went there on the grounds of unconstitutionality, and it was proven to you that there was no unconstitutional withdrawal with respect to even the cathedral. And the finance minister took time to explain that in any budget, there is always an accommodation made, a vote, that the finance minister, under certain circumstances, it's not a line item on the budget, but under some circumstances, the finance minister is at liberty. It's called the vote of contingency. And that contingency vote, under it, there are other government obligations. Those are, if you may, unforeseen, okay? The arguments I've heard our colleagues made is that how is the building of the cathedral unforeseen? That is not the issue. The building of a project or project itself can be foreseen, but the payment can then become unforeseen. I'll give you an example. How did we not know that we were going to Brazil? We played the qualifiers. We qualified. We played many friendlies. So we knew that we were going to go to Brazil when our colleagues in the NDC were in power. But they still had to apply themselves to the contingency vote to deal with the Brazil debacle. Albeit it was problematic. But the fact of the matter is that they were well within their right to have applied, the finance minister at the time, to have applied himself to the contingency vote. And our colleagues in the NDC who did this now turn around to say that, yes, sir.
There's a key point about trying to align issues about the World Cup, and which I've seen many government communicators do since Saturday. Now, if you're going to the World Cup, you put together a team, you go through qualifying phases.
Correct.
So you don't know whether you qualify or not.
Yes.
Okay, so the assumption is that it's possible.
But
that
you qualify way ahead.
That item may not be possible for you to redeem.
No,
right.
I disagree.
So going forward, we all know that even from 2017, the government said it will build a national cathedral.
Yes.
And so at a point in time when 142 million Ghana cedi will have to be expended, and now we're being told from a contingency vote, it's something that we're well aware of. It could have been brought before Parliament, and Parliament could have been the house that will approve it, as we have all those appropriations approved.
Yeah, but I'm saying to you,
I think that's a key argument.
No, but I'm saying to you that. I'm saying to you that.
Because equating it to the World Cup, it's not the issue, is it?
It's not a question of equation for me at all. It's a question of an example of how to apply contingency votes. And again, let's not lose sight of the fact that when the conversation around building the cathedrals came up, we were made aware that this was not going to be government of Ghana led.
Yes.
And that
which is still the argument
absolutely
from
so again,
so how come we end up paying 142 million, Mr. Pius?
But then in the ensuing budget, the finance minister said that government decided that it was going to make a commitment by way of seed funding.
So why are we committing the people of Ghana to a project that ideally was supposed to have been private sector led or Christian led or the Ghanaian public led?
Well, but I'm saying to you that the government of Ghana spends money to support our religious life. We are religious people. Okay. We spend money when our brothers are going to the Hajj.
Let me put this to you. But do you think the finance minister, within the remit and the powers that he has, and all the opportunity that he has to come and present a government budget or statement for which the appropriations will then be approved, should be going on this tangent of using a discretion of course, allowed by law, to make a payment of 142 million from this vote?
You're asking
on contingency.
Yes, you're asking my view on a matter which is different from the matter before Parliament. And I'm prepared to share that personal view with you.
If you want to.
But strictly speaking, what our colleagues...
You want us to stick to what...
But I'm saying that that's what we are interrogating. The proponents went before the Speaker with stated grounds bordering on unconstitutional withdrawal. The question I pose is this: taking money from the contingency vote for any matter, is this unconstitutional? The strict answer is no. So your argument, your grounds collapses. If you went before the Speaker on another ground that, oh, Mr. Speaker, emotive grounds, logically, we think that this should not have been it, and that next time we should guard against these things, we can all learn. We can also say, for instance, that when you want to participate in the Black Stars, but in the World Cup, budget for it properly and do all these things. We can have these conversations. But when you seek to take advantage of the challenges and politicize and criminalize action, then you don't leave that and run away from the strict legal requirements, and now you are in the emotive space and talking about being shocked and being surprised and so on. The fact of the matter is that the finance minister is not guilty as charged. The finance minister did not make any illegal or unconstitutional withdrawals. Unless our colleagues in the NDC are not aware that there is a vote of contingency that they appropriated, and within that vote of contingency is other government obligations under which successive governments have come to apply themselves. Sometimes
to the tune of just one-time payment of 142 million.
I'm not too sure about the one time. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, 142 million.
I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that.
No.
Even as I watched the proceeding, the finance minister was careful not to mislead or misquote, and he said that the figures about the amounts can always be verified. I think that it is my responsibility as yours to check, but I cannot sit here now and confirm or deny whether it is 141
to the point
time
that the finance minister even goes forward, and we've had that insert again relayed to our various sections of the audience, go on to say that it is normal that we've had difficulties in the economy, and so all the concerns being adduced, whether from the minority side of the House in that vote of censure, or those are also being expressed by his side of the House, being the majority members of Parliament, in excess of 95 members of Parliament. And then even the concerns generally by the public that he may not have acquitted himself well in managing the economy, and as a result of that, he should go. That is untenable, is it? That he's clearly mismanaged the economy, as they say.
Well, I'm saying that, you see, if we maybe took time to look at the grounds one after the other, I'm sure that will be a cleaner way to deal with the matter. Calls have been made for the minister's resignation. What the NDC is doing is to criminalize the minister's actions or inactions. And that's entirely different from the calls that people like you and I, or maybe the ordinary Ghanaians, or maybe the 95 MPs you referred to may have been making. They are clearly different. The NDC is seeking to criminalize their actions, okay? And they are using words like unconstitutional, they are using words like fraudulent and illegal and so on. That's not the claim of the MPP members of Parliament. The MPP members of Parliament are making claims, in my view, that are similar to claims that were made on Mr. Kweku Kwarteng of Britain, for instance. He was not criminalized. The people thought that at a certain time, there is a political action that can be taken to create an impression. And so the resignation of the finance minister, in their case, their systems allow even for the resignation of the prime minister. These are not matters that border on criminality. They are not matters that even border on mismanagement. They are not matters that border on fraud and so on. They are matters that border on political engineering to create an impression. So if MPP members...
You think your members of Parliament, as well as those... Okay, that's your view. It's not a view of government.
That's my view, that in fact, it's the stated position of the people who made the call, that they believe that where we are now, it would be good to throw in a new face. So
don't you think that his response to the other side of the House within the ad hoc committee also answers the whole general concerns being raised by those 95 MPs, as well as the other proponents who are in the public space,
well, but
regarding his competence to be able to manage the economy.
There are many of us who hold the view that
the finance
minister has had his highs and lows. Look, this is one of our best performing finance ministers, without doubt. We can check. Yeah, or you are looking at historically. He's been finance minister since 2017.
Very well.
He's been hit in a bad way within the last 2 years, admittedly. But how about the years before? This is the same finance minister who was able to pay free SHS, for instance, something our colleagues in the NDC claimed they couldn't do until 20 years. I'm saying that he did it. The same finance minister restored allowances. Our brothers in the NDC couldn't do that. This is the same finance minister who is paying for the infrastructure really and truly unprecedented. Check the kilometerage of roads and the sheer numbers of bridges that this finance minister has had to pay for.
Have you applied yourself of the market numbers these days? Inflationary trends,
that is why I'm saying
debt to GDP, all of them managed by the same finance minister.
That is why I said to you that the whole world, including Ghana, has been hit. Check the inflationary pressures everywhere. And we have been saying to you, in Togo, for instance, their inflation figures. What has it been since? UK, America, Germany, France, everywhere, everybody's being hit.
To the point that they've been downgraded, they are in junk status, the debt to GDP ratio is unsustainable, they can't pay their creditors?
Yes, many countries are, yeah, absolutely. But
Roland, this is unbelievable.
No, it is.
The countries that...
Roland,
yes, sir.
Look, any honest observer of global politics will admit this, that it is not just Ghana that's been hit in a bad way.
True.
Everybody else has been hit.
That is true.
Of course, have some been hit.
But it is not true that those same countries that we compare ourselves with have been credit rated onto a junk status.
No, Roland.
Their debt to GDP ratio is unsustainable.
Roland. I'm saying to you that
you do agree that.
Listen, we have all
because you make example of Togo. Togo is going the same crisis as we are.
I'll come to Togo. I mean, the vice president.
Do you know that our people, and you and I were very close to the Volta, we all come from the Volta region. Do you know that our people go through Aflawu, Togo, Asigame, and bring oil to Ghana?
Roland, I'm saying to you that you remember the vice president gave some statistics when we went to the about how some of the indicators have performed in some countries.
Yes.
I'm saying that countries all over the globe have been hit. Some have been hit harder. Some have managed their situation better. But everybody has been hit. So I'm saying to you that Ghana has also been hit. Okay? Have we been hit harder than some other countries? The nature of our economies are different. The relationship that Togo has with France, for instance...
How different is Ghana's economy from the other ones that in the African
Roland, you are even getting into another matter.
Okay.
Which you are derailing me for the main point.
No, but I'm not derailing you.
But you're asking me again about the structure of our economies. Because everybody knows that the Francophone economy, the structure of the Francophone economy, how France, the central bank of France, supports them is different from how the Anglophone countries operate. Everybody knows that. So when I talk about the nature of our economy, very import dependent and so on. Bernard, I'm saying to you...
my name is Roland.
Roland. I'm saying to you that all these things you are talking about, we are speaking the same language. But the fact of the matter is that, are these the stated grounds that the NDC is proceeding on in Parliament? The answer is no. The grounds on which they are proceeding, those grounds have collapsed before every discerning Ghanaian who watched. And that is why you yourself, you are able to say to me that he appears to have acquitted himself well. It's just because he spoke the truth. And you see, the truth is like a cork. You put it under water, you hold it, immediately you leave your hand, it will come up. And so I am quite excited. But it does not mean that Ghana, our problems have all vanished. It does not mean that consideration is not being given to the calls that are being made. But the criminalization that the NDC sought to engage on, that one, they have eggs on their faces.
Well, there are clear issues. There were key questions that were asked by the co-chairs of those who were asking questions on those who had sought to have that motion of vote of censure. And they clearly fell flat.
Did they? Anyway, good morning to Pius, good morning to our viewers, especially the good people of the Tamale North constituency. And sometimes it's very interesting listening to my brothers from the New Patriotic Party. I mean, the boldness with which they still, repeat their failures as if they were successes actually makes me envy them. I mean, the boldness with which they repeat failures as if they were successes actually make me envy them. I mean, to look in the faces of teacher trainees today and nurses today and beat your chest about how you have restored allowances to them takes some level of confidence.
But those were not the issues that were before.
To offend those group of people who you have not paid for months on end. and you think that's fine. And to look people in the eyes, teachers, look at parents and still boast about free SHS in the shambolic form that it is in. It takes some level of confidence. But let me commend Mr. Speaker and the members who were part of this ad hoc committee set up by Parliament. With all intents and purposes, it has actually enriched our democracy in many ways. And I mean, these are some of the things I expect this hung Parliament to be engaged in, because it affords us an opportunity, our numbers affords us an opportunity to strengthen our democratic institutions, especially Parliament, where you have the equal balance of power. You come to the table with, equal opportunities to negotiate and to take long-lasting decisions that can impact the future when the balance shifts, either to the opposition with majority in Parliament or to the majority with a president. Now, having said this, I look at the finance minister and the fight that he's putting up to remain in office against the popular call for him to be removed. And it is popular not just with the opposition. In fact, it is popular even with the government that he is working for. And I look at that fight he's engaged in to stay in office, despite that popular call to take him. And I ask myself, if this man was actually benefiting from his post, then I wonder the fight he would have put up. Because we have been told severally, Roland, that this man is working for free. You're going
to the realms of speculation.
No, please. It's not speculation.
Emotions.
It's not speculation. We have been told severally that this man is working for free.
Yes, he is.
That he's not taking salary. That he's serving us from the goodness of his heart.
He's driving his own car to work.
All of that. Now, the people that he is serving, for free, say, go home, and you say, I won't go. I mean, so I begin to wonder if he was actually benefiting, because he says he's not benefiting.
Well, that's not before the committee, is it?
I know. I'm developing my point.
Okay.
Just be patient. When they are shaving you, you don't touch your hair. That man, I am saying, isn't it intriguing that he says he's not getting anything from it? He's just doing it from the goodness of his heart. And the people are saying that, please, we thank you, but go home. And then you are putting up this level of fight to serve for free. No. When the people that you want to serve are saying they are not interested in your service.
No.
Now let's move on.
It's inaccurate.
No, Pius.
You said a lot of inaccurate things, but I was very patient. Okay, so please just lend that.
Please go ahead.
So I'm saying that it is quite intriguing that he's putting up this fight. Roland. And maybe the boldness with which these people repeat their failures as if they were successes is also born out of the belief and conviction that every problem in this country can be resolved.
2017, 2018, 2019, the numbers were good.
Roland, you just enjoy stuff. You see, when you don't allow me to finish the sentence, it doesn't make sense. So the point I'm making is that the boldness, perhaps, with which they come up with their attempt to repeat their failures as if they were successes is born out of their belief that they can solve all problems in this country by just having, the right communication tools. And I'll show you one. So the finance minister appears before the committee, and the first thing he says to catch the headline is, I'm sorry. And then at the end of the day, he says, I've done nothing wrong. What are you sorry for then? But because the mindset is that let's deal with this with a communication style. So he appears, and then his approach is, I'm sorry. Then at the end of the session, he tells you that, look, all the claims are useless. I am the best you have ever had. So what are you sorry for? But that's it. For them, it's communication. And they do not think that we are sophisticated enough to see through, these
But it's not true that he
What was he sorry for?
He appeared before the committee.
What was he apologizing for?
He was expecting questions to be posed based on the 7 pointers. Of course, 2 of them had been struck off.
The apology came even before the questions.
Yeah, true.
And I'm saying at the end of it all, he did not even have the courtesy, the honesty to admit to just even one for which he is sorry.
He's supposed to defend them, not admit to them.
No, but I'm saying that even in the management of the economy, he could have still defended all the grounds, but in the management of the economy, he could have at least, if he was honest, admit to something that went wrong, for which he was apologizing in the beginning.
So what should he admit to?
The apology is it's about communication. And I'm saying that, look, some of us are more sophisticated than that. But Roland, I'll move on from there. He didn't tell us what he was sorry for. But he thinks that, he's sorry. And then he defends himself. He's the best we've ever got. And because we are not sophisticated, we'll applaud him and we'll move on. Roland, on the issue of Cathedral, and now I'm moving on to the grounds that he was faced with. And let me start by saying that Pius lied when he said that we qualified for Brazil and then we played friendlies and then we still use contingency vote. He lied. Our last friendly game, our last qualifying game for Brazil 2014 was played on 19th November 2013 against Egypt.
So what is the lie?
Budget had already been presented for 2014 because we present our budgets in 2013. We present 2014 budgets in 2013. You know that. And that is why this week we are expecting the budget for 2023 to be presented. We are in November. And I'm telling you that Brazil became a case for contingency vote because at the time that the budget was prepared, Ghana had not qualified for the World Cup.
What are you telling us?
Do you understand? And that is that lie has to be put straight in his face that he lied. Now, let's move on to the Cathedral. Roland, 2017, the President of the Republic cut short for the construction of a cathedral. 2018, 2019, the President and his Finance Minister, both in Ghana and in abroad, told us how they were going to commit seed capital, state funds, as seed capital to the construction of the cathedral. In fact, in the 2019 and 2020 budget, the Finance Minister made reference to the cathedral and how they were going to fund it, even gave us the specifications, the number of things that will be in it. 2019, 2020
but the specific
budget.
amounts were not mentioned.
So 5 years down the line, it becomes an item for contingency. It was completely an afterthought. After you have abused the law and you are brought before a committee that you know the people of Ghana are watching, you come up with such a ridiculous excuse that a project you have been working on for 4 or 5 years all of a sudden became an emergency because the contingency vote is reserved for emergency situations. Situations that were not planned for at the time that the budget was prepared. And he keeps repeating Brazil. And I tell you, the arrogance and the pomposity with which they repeat, the wrong, actually makes you envy them sometimes. I've just told you that Brazil, our final qualifying game against Egypt was played on 19th November. Go and check 2013. And at that time, the 2014 budget had already been prepared. So if you had the government of Ghana using the contingency vote to support players in Brazil, it's because at the time that they were playing were doing the budget, we had not qualified for the World Cup.
Pius,
so I'm saying that clearly, it was an afterthought to appear before the committee and to suggest that you supported the cathedral from the contingency fund. Contingency, like I said, is for an unplanned expenditure.
But it's not unconstitutional.
A cathedral, yeah, but good, it's not. And that's why I say it is an afterthought. Because you see, it couldn't have come from the contingency fund. When you had 4 or 5 years told us how you were going to fund it.
You mean it shouldn't have?
It couldn't have. Because you see, if you remember, in the initial stages, when this cathedral matter was raised, they kept referring to us that it was a budget line in the budget. I mean, it was an item line in the budget.
Even though they were not specific.
Even though there was no specific, and that is where we were saying that. And you see, sometimes some of these discussions, Roland, it may seem like a very useful way of exonerating Ken Ofori-Atta. But when we justify it, we set bad precedents for the future. Now, you tell me that it is okay for governments to do that. A very wicked and corrupt government comes into government in future and then decides
everything will go to contingency.
Exactly. And then we all justify it on this table.
But
so it may seem like it's a good way to exonerate Ken Ofori-Atta because Ken Ofori-Atta is one of us today. But what you are telling the people of Ghana is that it is okay to commit these crimes and say that you did not break any law because you push it under as a fund that is acceptable to be used.
What do you mean by crime? You mean make such decisions?
Yes, yeah. Well, if you break the constitution to some extent, that is criminal. You know, so I'm saying that it depends on how it is done. So I'm saying that let us be careful when we are having these conversations. So the finance minister comes to tell us that it was drawn from the contingency fund. Like I said, it may seem like a smart one, but how do we as a country, face the truth that this couldn't have been a contingency after you had planned it for 4 or 5 years? Call that out. Let the man explain to us how all of a sudden something they had been working on for 4 or 5 years
too long time
became
to be
a contingency.
Yeah.
Exactly. Look, Roland, then the PIAC issue came up, which had a lot of...
Can we finish with
which had a lot... Yes, he didn't have to, because according to the committee, they had enough information to make a decision on it. Now, I find it quite...
Can we take it one grounds at a time?
Please, you are not the host. Please. So
we're wrapping everything.
You see, so the PIAC issue comes up, and I'm like, okay, what? I honestly didn't understand why the committee didn't allow him to speak to it. Well, because when I listened to the GMPC and I listened to PIAC, I came to the conclusion that clearly something was not right. Now, $100 million with JOHL, limited. It was not clearly established how that 100 million was even raised.
It was from sale.
Good. No, good. But the question of who bought the oil? They said oil lifting. Which company bought it?
Tallow.
Because they are usually transfers. No. The suggestion is that Tallow lifted. Please, be careful.
No.
The purchaser was not a subject of scrutiny.
It wasn't, but it could have been.
Even that question was...
And again, Roland,
I think clearly,
yes,
especially led by the former deputy finance minister, Cathedral Forcing. It was a subject of a breach of the petroleum management, for which the finance ministry sought to have had some oversight responsibility on how some of these movements were made. And whether Bank of Ghana, on the other hand, was supposed to have been in the know, and if they were in the know, whether some breaches were made. And so clearly, those are key constitutional decisions that there's the belief may have been flouted.
But that's why, exactly. So that's why I heard KT Hammond, for example, suggesting that, okay, the JOHL is governed by the Companies Act.
Because it's a subsidiary.
No, I'm saying that. And so because of that it is governed by the Companies Act, and so because of
but
that...
But you're not convinced.
I'm coming, Rona. You see, you don't even allow me to finish the sentence. So because of that, the Constitution that requires that all monies received on behalf of government should go to the consolidated fund is sort of excuse because it is governed by the Companies Act. Do you understand? And I'm thinking, which is superior? Because according to the Constitution, every money, revenue, and all receipts on behalf of the people of Ghana comes to the people of Ghana, even if you put the PRMFA aside and look at the Constitution. Every money, whether it is a company limited by liability, if they are receiving the money on and behalf of the people of Ghana, where should it go? But they make you look like there's some confusion, but I don't see it. And I'm saying, again, there seems to be some symbiotic loan relationship between the finance ministry and then the GMPC. And you're asking yourself, since when did each of them take a license to lend money to each other?
You're confusing the issues.
Do you understand? So I would have loved, well, maybe if my understanding is above yours, it doesn't mean I'm confusing the issues. No. If what I'm saying is above your understanding, it doesn't mean I'm confusing the issues. With all due respect, So I'm saying that it would have been interesting but it will still be interesting to hear what the the committee will say finally on these matters. And finally, Roland. My brother repeatedly talks about COVID, Russia and Ukraine, and that's what the finance minister
standard.
Yeah,
is it not true?
Is there repeated, defense, and that is what he used in the end to say that he has done nothing wrong and he has managed the economy competently and all of that. The question I've always asked is, Roland, if you and I go to write an exam, and then on our way we join the same vehicle, the same vehicle. On our way, Metromas, the car breaks down. And then you and I get up and we walk. And because of that, we arrive at the exam hall 30 minutes late. And you pass. And I fail.
What was the scorecard?
What is the excuse that I failed because the car broke down and we're 30 minutes late?
No, it's a big excuse.
It's a big excuse. But why did you pass? So if we are worse, if COVID hit Togo, COVID hit Nigeria, COVID hit South Africa,
Benin.
COVID hit Benin,
Togo.
Even war-torn countries,
Senegal.
COVID hit them. Russia is affecting all of them, and we are last. And we are last. In all of that, we are last. How do we say that you pass and they failed? You pass because perhaps you are better prepared, you are more intelligent, and I failed because I was dumb. I was daft.
And ill-prepared.
It has nothing to do with the fact that, COVID and Russia. Look, our inflation rate today, Roland, is 40.7%.
No, it's okay.
That is uncomparable to any in the sub-region. Look, today, Roland, the minimum wage that has been established for January, not even this year, January, cannot buy you a liter of fuel. 1 liter, not even to talk of a gallon. But you are going to even receive it next year.
That's minimum wage.
The minimum wage cannot buy you that.
That's
Look,
minimum
Roland,
wage.
today, you will need to work in January, from January, if you are on a minimum wage. Do you know the number of people who are on a minimum wage today? Go round. You see, maybe you are living so high up there that you don't know that people are still paid 500 Ghana, 600 Ghana in this country at the end of the month. That's the minimum wage. And I'm saying that today, if you want your children, your family to take ideal milk, one tin a day is going to cost you about 170 Ghana. That's half of your That's half of your minimum wage gone, just giving your family 1 tin of ideal milk a day in a month.
And that's the scorecard.
And that is the level of incompetence. That is what the level of incompetence has brought us.
So you're saying that is what we measure Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, by?
Well,
we have to go for a break.
But you see, Roland.
We have to go for a break.
Well, I thought we should respond to these things right now.
If you respond, he'll respond.
Of course.
No, but I have the right of reply. I spoke first.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I don't have?
No, you spoke
Okay,
after
I'll give you 2 minutes.
So I don't have
I'll give you 2 minutes. I'm watching the time. 2 minutes.
Roland, if he replies, I have to reply.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So I
just wanted to say
2 minutes.
You see,
no interjection.
This desperate attempt to press emotive buttons is not what is before the House. And the NDC is shamefully moving away from their grounds of censure to these emotive outbursts. And I'm saying to you that I have admitted here around this table that we have been hit in a bad way. We all buy milk, we all buy gas. So we are all feeling the pinch. So we have been hit in a bad way. And so has every other country in this world been hit in a bad way.
But we are worse.
Now,
How come we are worse?
My brother may
That's
not
the question you don't answer.
My brother may not be a teacher like me. Okay? But even using the same example that you gave of the STC bus breaking down on the way, the reasons why a student can pass or not is varied. And so it is too simplistic for you to say that the only reason why a student would have failed is because the student was ill prepared. Even the physical makeup of the two students who have to walk to the exams hall, even their physical makeup, their physical endurance will have different impacts on them.
For instance, agreeing with him.
No, I'm not. So I'm saying to you
agreeing with him.
What do you mean? What do you mean I'm agreeing with him? I'm saying to you for a fact that, for instance, if you had a fat Obolo kid, like I know somebody who has, and there's also a slim one, they have to walk at the same distance. By the time they get to the exam hall, that's absolutely. That's what I'm saying to you. That
but what is ill preparation? What is the definition of ill preparation?
No. The ill preparation you are talking about
you are now defining it for me.
It's the content of the examinable subject. It's the content of the examinable subject.
That is your shallow understanding of ill preparation.
Please.
Honestly, that's your. I haven't told
you.
To
go and pass an exam is to go and
preparation. Ill preparation encompasses a lot.
2 minutes.
But that's what I'm saying. But he's taking into my time. You are not allowing. You are not controlling him, and he's getting into my time. But I'm saying that
there's no need to even respond.
For me, that simplistic example is shredded. It's a non-starter.
Just by the way, I'm a trained teacher as well. You didn't know.
Thank you very much. He says that Brazil, we qualified sometime in. But what were we qualifying for? For the World Cup. The same attitude can be adapted that if you're playing a qualifier in November to go and play the World Cup.
You budget.
Absolutely. You were planning to go. You were preparing to go. But then again, he says something which I may agree with, that you may set a precedence. But you see, it is Parliament that passes the appropriation. That can be cured. The allocations that government will make, the Parliament.
Not as abuse.
I'm saying that can be cured.
The abuse cannot be cured.
The abuse can be cured by the appropriation that Parliament
What do you deem 142 million
Listen
payment
to what I'm saying, Roland. I'm saying that if Parliament reduces the contingency vote and looks at extra government obligations and reduces it to below 140 million, 140 million is no longer available for any minister to apply to under the contingency vote. So I'm saying that it is something that Parliament itself can always cure. Don't turn around.
So you're saying that just paying on contingency 142 million on the go is normal.
That he says that,
like the way in quotes miscellaneous or you say this is impress.
That is why in any budget.
That's how we treasure this expenditure.
Absolutely, but that's how we put those things in budgets.
Right.
But I'm saying to you that the Parliament, it is not the finance minister that appropriates its own budget. The Parliament will pass the appropriation.
Roland, you said one thing. You said one thing that he agrees with me. He agrees with me, but in his heart, he has to impress his party, perhaps those who are watching, because the fact remains that he is convinced by the point I make about the danger in setting bad precedents.
But I'm saying that can be cured.
You can use it.
That can be cured.
You can use it. You have only contributed to what I have said. But I'm saying that on this specific matter, it is fair for us to confront it as an afterthought.
No, it is not. That is
the
what you think.
finance minister, after paying those monies, did not know how to justify it, and so had to come and say that he did it under the other government obligations.
That is not true.
Clearly, it is something that is untenable, because, like I have said, you cannot plan something for 4, 5, 6 years.
But we planned the World Cup for even longer,
and
we still apply the same measure. That's why I'm saying that these things can be cured. And you have been making.
I'm surprised you still.
We're taking a break. We'll be right back. When we come back, we'll be looking at whether it's possible. 2024, we use the Ghana card to vote. That is before even the voting process, do registration of ordinary Ghanaians.